It was one of those nights where the city seemed quieter than usual, but not in a peaceful way. The kind of quiet that makes you feel like something is about to happen. Chloe Miller lay awake in her small bed, staring at the ceiling. Her dad, who worked as the janitor for a fancy high-rise building, had already gone to sleep after finishing his late-night shift. He always slept early, because mornings came too fast when you spent your days cleaning up after people who barely noticed. You existed. Chloe, on the other hand, couldn't drift off. She tossed and turned, listening to the faint hum of the refrigerator downstairs and the occasional car passing by outside their tiny apartment tucked behind the boiler room. Just as she was finally starting to doze off, her phone buzzed loudly on the nightstand. Startled, she grabbed it quickly, trying not to wake her dad. It was 2 a.m., way too late for anyone to be calling unless it was important. She squinted at the screen. The number wasn't familiar, but curiosity got the better of her. With a yawn, she pressed answer and whispered into the phone, "Hello?" For a moment, there was only silence. Then a voice crackled through, shaky and urgent. "Is this housekeeping? I need someone here now." Chloe frowned. No, this isn't housekeeping," she said hesitantly. Before she could ask anything else, the line went dead. She pulled the phone away from her ear and stared at it, confused. Who calls at 2 a.m. thinking they've reached housekeeping? And why did they hang up so suddenly? Most people would have shrugged it off and gone back to bed. But something about the tone of the caller's voice stuck with Chloe. There was desperation in it, a raw edge that made her wonder if maybe, just maybe, whoever it was really needed help. She thought about ignoring it, crawling back under her blanket and pretending nothing happened. After all, it wasn't her problem. But then again, what if it was an emergency? Sighing, Chloe swung her legs over the side of the bed and slipped her feet into her sneakers. She grabbed a hoodie from the chair near her desk and scribbled a quick note for her dad. Went out for fresh air. Be back soon. She didn't want him worrying if he woke up and found her gone. The hallway outside their apartment was dimly lit, with the faint smell of bleach lingering in the air, a reminder of her dad's hard work keeping the building spotless. As she walked toward the elevator, she tried to shake off the nervousness bubbling inside her. This felt stupid. What was she even doing? Walking around the city in the middle of the night based on some random wrong call? Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that she should at least check it out. When she stepped out onto the street, the cool night air hit her face, making her pull her hoodie tighter around herself. She glanced down at her phone again, scrolling through the call log to find the number. Thankfully, it had shown up along with the missed call notification. Using a map app, she typed in the address linked to the number and realized it wasn't far, just a few blocks away. Funny enough, it was another luxury building, the kind of place where people probably never cleaned their own dishes or fixed their own leaky faucets. As she approached the towering glass structure, Chloe felt more out of place than ever. The lobby gleamed with polished marble floors and gold accents, looking like something out of a magazine. A security guard sat behind a desk, glancing up briefly before returning to whatever he was reading. For a second, she considered turning back. What exactly was she planning to do here? Knock on someone's door and say, "Hey, sorry to bother you, but I think you accidentally called me." But before she could talk herself out of it, she spotted the directory board listing the residents' names next to their apartment numbers. Sure enough, the name matched the address she'd looked up. Taking a deep breath, she pressed the buzzer for the penthouse suite. After a long pause, a voice crackled through the intercom. "Yes?" It sounded tired but wary. "Hi," Chloe said, shifting uncomfortably. I got a call earlier, from this number. I think it might have been a mistake." There was another pause, longer this time. Then, the sound of static, followed by the click of the door unlocking. Chloe hesitated, unsure whether she should go up or leave. Finally, curiosity won out. She pushed open the heavy glass door and stepped into the elevator, pressing the button for the top floor. When the doors slid open, she found herself facing a woman standing in the doorway of the penthouse. She was dressed in silk pajamas, her dark hair falling messily around her shoulders. Despite the late hour, there was no mistaking the elegance in her posture, or the exhaustion etched into her face. "You're not from housekeeping," the woman said flatly, though not unkindly. "No," Chloe admitted, suddenly feeling very aware of her worn-out hoodie and sneakers. "I think you called the wrong person." Instead of slamming the door in her face, the woman hesitated. Then, to Chloe's surprise, she stepped aside. "Come in anyway," she said quietly. "Something tells me I might need your help more than whoever I was trying to reach." And just like that, Chloe stepped into a world completely different from her own, one filled with sweeping views of the city skyline, expensive furniture, and secrets waiting to spill over. Little did she know, this accidental meeting would change both their lives forever. Chloe hesitated for a moment before stepping inside, her sneakers making soft scuffing sounds against the gleaming marble floor. The penthouse was unlike anything she'd ever seen. Spacious, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a breathtaking view of the city skyline glittering under the moonlight. Expensive-looking furniture was arranged neatly, and abstract art hung on the walls, but there was something off about the place. It felt empty, not just physically, but emotionally, like no one really lived here. The woman closed the door behind them and gestured for Chloe to follow her into what looked like a living room. She moved slowly, almost as if every step took effort. When they reached the plush couches, she sank down onto one, running a hand through her disheveled hair. For a while, neither of them said anything. The silence stretched out, heavy and awkward, until finally the woman spoke. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice low and strained. "I didn't mean to drag you out here in the middle of the night. I wasn't thinking straight." Chloe shook her head quickly. "It's okay," she replied, though she wasn't entirely sure it was okay. "You sounded, upset. On the phone, I mean. Is everything all right?" The woman let out a humorless laugh. "No, nothing's all right." She paused, staring at her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "But I guess that's not your problem, is it?" Chloe shifted uncomfortably. "Well, technically, you called me," she pointed out with a small smile, trying to lighten the mood. "So maybe it kind of is my problem now." To her relief, the woman managed a faint grin. "Fair enough." She leaned back against the couch, exhaling deeply. "My name's Evelyn, by the way, and yes, I realize how ridiculous this must seem to bring a complete stranger into my home because I dialed the wrong number. It's not every day someone gets invited into a penthouse by accident," Chloe joked, sitting down cautiously on the edge of the opposite couch. "I promise I won't tell anyone about your midnight mix-up." Evelyn chuckled softly, though there was still sadness in her eyes. "Good to know, though honestly at this point I doubt anyone would care." Something about the way she said it made Chloe frown. "What do you mean?" Evelyn hesitated, then sighed. "It's complicated. Let's just say my life hasn't exactly been going according to plan lately." Chloe tilted her head slightly. "Want to talk about it? Or are we sticking with the whole stranger danger thing?" For a second, Evelyn looked surprised. Then, she laughed, a real laugh this time, warm and genuine. "You're bold, aren't you?" "Bold or dumb," Chloe admitted with a shrug. "Either way, I'm already here. Might as well make the most of it." Evelyn studied her for a moment, as if weighing whether or not to trust her. Finally, she nodded. "All right, but first tea. Or coffee. Whatever you prefer. I owe you that much for dragging you out here." They ended up in the kitchen, which was sleek and modern, with stainless steel appliances and countertops so clean they practically sparkled. Evelyn rummaged through cabinets, pulling out mugs and a box of tea bags. Chloe watched quietly, taking in the little details. The way Evelyn moved methodically, like she was used to being precise, or how she avoided looking directly at Chloe when she thought she wasn't paying attention. Once the kettle boiled, they settled back in the living room, steaming cups cradled in their hands. Evelyn took a sip, then set her mug down carefully. "So," she began, her tone measured. "Where do I even start? How about the beginning? Chloe suggested gently. Whatever feels easiest. Evelyn nodded, staring into the distance as if gathering her thoughts. Let's see. A few months ago, I was engaged. To someone I thought I could trust completely. Someone who was supposed to stand by me no matter what. But instead, her voice trailed off, pain flickering across her face. Chloe waited patiently, giving her time to continue. He betrayed me, Evelyn said finally, her jaw tightening, not just emotionally but professionally too. He leaked confidential documents from my family's company to our competitors, for money. Can you believe that? All those years together, all those promises, and he threw it away for a paycheck. Chloe's eyes widened. That's awful. It gets worse, Evelyn continued bitterly. When the scandal broke, everyone turned on me. Reporters camped outside my building, digging up every detail of my life. My own family acted like it was somehow my fault for trusting him, as if I should have known better. That's not fair, Chloe blurted out before she could stop herself. None of that was your fault. Evelyn gave her a sad smile. Tell that to the rest of the world. They don't care about fairness. All they care about is headlines. Chloe frowned, feeling a pang of anger on Evelyn's behalf. So what did you do, after everything happened? I shut everyone out, Evelyn admitted. I fired most of my staff, stopped answering calls, avoided leaving the apartment. Anything to keep people from judging me or using me again. She glanced at Chloe, which is why calling housekeeping tonight was such a stupid move. I haven't spoken to anyone outside these walls in weeks. I guess I just snapped. Chloe nodded slowly, piecing it all together. And now you're stuck dealing with everything alone. Pretty much, Evelyn said with a shrug. It's easier this way, safer. But is it happier? Chloe asked quietly. Evelyn froze, caught off guard by the question. She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again, shaking her head. I don't know anymore. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of Evelyn's words hanging between them. Chloe sipped her tea, thinking about how lonely it must feel to live in such a beautiful place yet have no one to share it with. Sure, Evelyn had wealth and status, but none of that seemed to matter when she was hurting. Finally, Evelyn broke the quiet. What about you? What's your story? Chloe blinked, surprised by the sudden shift in focus. Me? Oh, I'm nobody special. Just the janitor's daughter, living in the shadow of this fancy building. That doesn't sound like nobody, Evelyn countered. Everyone has a story, even if they don't think it's worth telling. Chloe hesitated, unsure where to begin. Well, my dad works hard, really hard, to keep this place running smoothly. Most people don't even notice him, but he's the reason their trash gets taken out and their bathrooms stay clean. Growing up, I helped him whenever I could, cleaning floors, fixing things that break. You learn pretty fast how to take care of yourself when you're living paycheck to paycheck. And yet you showed up tonight, Evelyn said, studying her intently, even though you didn't have to. Why? Chloe shrugged. Because you sounded like you needed someone, and sometimes showing up is all it takes to make a difference. Evelyn stared at her, something unreadable flashing in her eyes. You're remarkable, you know that? No, I'm not, Chloe laughed, brushing off the compliment. I'm just me. Well, whoever me is, Evelyn said with a small smile. I'm glad you came. As the night wore on, their conversation flowed more easily, each sharing pieces of themselves they rarely revealed to others. By the time dawn crept over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Chloe realized she'd stumbled into something extraordinary. What started as a wrong call had turned into a connection neither of them expected, and one that might change both their lives forever. The days that followed were unlike anything Chloe had ever experienced. What started as a one-night conversation turned into something more, a quiet routine that neither of them had planned, but both seemed to need. Evelyn didn't ask Chloe to come back, and Chloe didn't offer. It just happened. Every morning after her dad finished his early shift, Chloe would grab a cup of coffee from the corner shop and head to the penthouse. At first, she told herself it was just to check and to make sure Evelyn wasn't drowning under the weight of everything she'd been carrying. But deep down, she knew there was more to it. Evelyn, for her part, didn't protest when Chloe showed up. In fact, she seemed almost relieved. The penthouse, which had felt so cold and empty that first night, slowly began to feel warmer, like it was finally being lived in. They fell into a rhythm. Evelyn would share bits of her day or talk about the challenges she was facing with her family's company, while Chloe listened, offering advice or simply sitting quietly when words weren't enough. Sometimes they didn't talk at all. Instead, they'd sit side by side on the couch watching the city wake up through the massive windows, sipping tea or coffee in companionable silence. But it wasn't just about venting or keeping each other company. Over time, Chloe realized Evelyn needed help, not just emotionally but practically too. The scandal involving her ex-fiancé had left a mess behind, and Evelyn, who had spent most of her life relying on others to handle things for her, suddenly found herself overwhelmed. Documents needed organizing, emails required responses, and decisions had to be made about how to move forward. For someone used to having assistants and advisors, doing it all alone felt impossible. That's where Chloe stepped in. She didn't have any formal training or experience in corporate matters, but she had something Evelyn lacked right now: clarity. While Evelyn struggled to see past the chaos, Chloe approached problems with a calm, practical mindset. When stacks of papers threatened to bury Evelyn's desk, Chloe suggested sorting them into categories. When Evelyn agonized over how to respond to an email from a board member, Chloe encouraged her to focus on facts rather than emotions. Slowly but surely, things began to fall into place. One afternoon, as they worked together in Evelyn's home office, a sleek room filled with shelves of leather-bound books and framed awards, Chloe glanced up from her laptop and said, "You? No, you're stronger than you think." Evelyn looked up from the document she'd been staring at for the past 10 minutes. "What makes you say that?" "Because you're still standing," Chloe replied simply. "After everything that's happened, you haven't given up. That takes guts." Evelyn smiled faintly, though there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. "I don't always feel strong. Most days I feel like I'm barely holding it together." "That's okay," Chloe said gently. "Strength doesn't mean never falling apart. It means getting back up even when you want to stay down." For a moment, Evelyn just stared at her as if seeing her in a new light. Then she nodded. "Thank you," she murmured, "for everything." As the weeks went on, their bond grew deeper. Evelyn began confiding in Chloe about things she hadn't told anyone else: the insecurity she felt about running the company, the fear that she'd disappoint her parents, the loneliness that lingered despite having people around her all her life. Chloe, in turn, opened up about her own struggles, growing up poor in a world that often dismissed her, feeling invisible even when she worked twice as hard as everyone else, dreaming of something bigger, but not knowing how to get there. Their differences were stark, yet they only seemed to bring them closer. Evelyn admired Chloe's resilience, her ability to find joy in the smallest things, and her unwavering belief that kindness mattered more than status. Chloe, meanwhile, saw past Evelyn's polished exterior to the vulnerable, uncertain person beneath. She realized that wealth and privilege didn't shield you from pain. They just gave you fancier ways to hide it. Of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were moments when old habits crept back in. One evening, as they pored over financial reports, Evelyn snapped at Chloe for suggesting a different approach to handling a supplier issue. "You don't understand how this works," she exclaimed, frustration bubbling over. "This isn't some small-time operation, it's a multi-million-dollar business." Chloe blinked, taken aback, but instead of retreating, she held her ground. "No, I don't understand all the details," she admitted. "But I do understand that panicking won't solve anything. And I also know that sometimes fresh eyes can spot solutions people stuck in the system might miss." Evelyn stared at her, anger fading into guilt. "You're right," she said quietly. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have snapped at you." "It's fine," Chloe replied with a shrug. We're human. We mess up. The important thing is learning from it. By the time they wrapped up for the night, Evelyn apologized again, this time pulling Chloe into an unexpected hug. I don't know what I'd do without you, she confessed. You've become more than just a friend. You're my anchor. Chloe hugged her back, feeling a lump rise in her throat. Same goes for me, she whispered. You've shown me that I'm capable of more than I ever thought possible. Their friendship wasn't just changing Evelyn's life. It was changing Chloe's too. With Evelyn's encouragement, Chloe started exploring opportunities she'd never considered before. Evelyn introduced her to contacts in industries Chloe had only dreamed of working in, helped her polish her resume, and even offered to pay for classes to boost her skills. At first, Chloe resisted, insisting she didn't want charity. But Evelyn wouldn't take no for an answer. This isn't charity, Evelyn insisted one afternoon as they sat in the kitchen, surrounded by laptops and notebooks. It's an investment in you. You deserve this, Chloe, more than you realize. Chloe bit her lip, unsure how to respond. I don't know how to thank you, she said finally. You already have, Evelyn replied with a smile. Just promise me you'll keep showing up for yourself this time. And show up, Chloe did. She threw herself into learning, devouring every resource Evelyn provided and soaking up knowledge like a sponge. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to dream bigger, to imagine a future where she wasn't defined by her circumstances. Evelyn became her cheerleader, celebrating every milestone and reminding her that failure was just another step on the journey. But as much as their connection brought them strength, it also drew attention from outsiders who didn't understand their relationship. Paparazzi, always eager for a juicy story, began speculating about why Evelyn St. Clair, the reclusive heiress, was spending so much time with a young woman from the building staff. Photos of them leaving cafes or walking along the streets appeared online, accompanied by headlines questioning whether Evelyn had hired a new assistant or something more personal. At first, Evelyn tried to ignore it, brushing off the rumors as irrelevant. But the scrutiny grew harder to escape, especially when reporters started camping outside the building. One evening, as they stood on the balcony overlooking the city, Evelyn sighed heavily. This is exactly why I stayed away from people for so long, she said, gesturing toward the flashing cameras below. They twist everything until it fits their narrative. Chloe frowned, leaning against the railing beside her. Does it bother you, what they're saying? Evelyn hesitated, not because it's true or false, but because it reminds me how little control we have over our stories once they're out there. Well, screw them, Chloe said firmly, crossing her arms. Let them write whatever they want. Our truth is what matters, not theirs. Evelyn chuckled softly, shaking her head. When did you get so wise? I learned from the best, Chloe teased, nudging her shoulder. Despite the challenges, neither of them regretted the path they'd chosen. Together, they proved that connections could blossom in the unlikeliest places, transcending boundaries of class, status, and expectation. And as they faced the world side by side, they discovered that true strength came not from facing battles alone, but from finding someone who believed in you enough to stand by your side. As the weeks turned into months, Chloe and Evelyn's partnership evolved into something neither of them had anticipated. What began as a simple act of kindness, a wrong call answered in the dead of night, had transformed into a bond that was reshaping both their lives. But it wasn't just about friendship anymore. They were becoming each other's support systems, confidants, and even advocates for change. One morning, as they sat together in Evelyn's kitchen sipping coffee, Evelyn glanced at Chloe with an expression that was equal parts excitement and nervousness. I've been thinking, she said, her voice steady but tinged with hesitation. What if we did something bigger? Something that could actually make a difference? Chloe looked up from her mug, intrigued. Something like what? Evelyn leaned forward, resting her elbows on the table. You told me once that growing up poor made you feel invisible, that no matter how hard you worked, people still dismissed you because of where you came from. It got me thinking, Why should anyone have to feel that way? Why can't we use my resources to create opportunities for people like you? People who deserve a chance but don't always get one. Chloe blinked, caught off guard by the suggestion. Wait, you're talking about starting some kind of program? Not just any program, Evelyn replied, her eyes lighting up with determination. A foundation, one that helps underprivileged youth access education, training, and mentorship. We'll focus on practical skills, networking opportunities, and emotional support. The things that really matter when you're trying to build a better life. Chloe stared at her, unsure whether to laugh or cry. That's huge. Are you sure you want to take this on? Foundations aren't exactly easy to run. I know, Evelyn admitted. But I can't keep living in this bubble, pretending the world outside doesn't exist. I've spent my whole life insulated by privilege, and look where it got me. Lonely, disconnected, and clueless about real struggles. If I'm going to step up and reclaim my life, I want to do it in a way that actually matters. And besides, she smiled softly, you'll be there to help me, right? Chloe felt her chest tighten with emotion. Of course I will. But are you ready for the attention this is going to bring? People are already scrutinizing us for being friends. Once word gets out about the foundation and our connection, it's only going to get worse. Evelyn nodded, her jaw set firmly. Let them talk. This isn't about pleasing anyone else, it's about doing what's right. For once, I want to live unapologetically, even if it means ruffling feathers along the way. And so, the two women dove headfirst into planning. They spent countless hours brainstorming ideas, drafting proposals, and reaching out to experts who could guide them through the process. Chloe played a crucial role, sharing insights from her own experiences and helping Evelyn ground the foundation in reality rather than idealism. Together, they designed programs aimed at providing scholarships, internships, and career counseling to young people from low-income backgrounds. They also included workshops on mental health and resilience, recognizing that success wasn't just about skills, it was about mindset too. The day they announced the launch of the foundation was nothing short of surreal. Standing side by side on a stage in front of reporters, cameras, and community leaders, Chloe couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. Evelyn delivered a powerful speech, her words ringing with authenticity as she spoke about the importance of bridging divides and creating pathways for those often overlooked by society. When it was Chloe's turn to speak, she fought back tears as she described how Evelyn's belief in her had changed her life, and how she hoped the foundation would do the same for others. Afterward, as they stepped off the stage amid applause, Evelyn grabbed Chloe's hand and squeezed it tightly. We did it, she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. You did it, Chloe corrected, smiling through her own tears. This was all your idea. No, Evelyn insisted. It was ours. From the beginning, it's always been ours. Back at home, life continued to shift in unexpected ways. Chloe moved out of the tiny apartment she shared with her dad and into a cozy studio space, a gift from Evelyn, though Chloe insisted on paying rent. Her dad, initially hesitant about accepting help, eventually warmed up to the idea after seeing how much happier and more confident Chloe had become. The two of hers still spent weekends together watching old movies and cooking meals, but now Chloe had a place of her own, a symbol of independence she never thought she'd achieve. Meanwhile, Evelyn embraced a simpler, more meaningful lifestyle. She fired her overbearing publicist, stopped attending superficial events, and focused on building genuine relationships, instead of maintaining hollow connections. With Chloe by her side, she rediscovered parts of herself she'd lost long ago. Her creativity, her sense of humor, her ability to find joy in the little things. For the first time in years, she felt truly alive. But perhaps the most profound change was in how they viewed each other. Evelyn often marveled at Chloe's strength and wisdom, qualities she realized weren't measured by wealth or status. You remind me of who I used to be before everything got so complicated, she confessed one evening as they strolled through the park. Before I let fear dictate my choices. And you remind me of who I can be, Chloe replied, smiling. Someone who refuses to settle for less than she deserves. Their journey wasn't without its challenges, of course. Critics questioned Evelyn's motives, accusing her of using charity as a PR stunt. Others dismissed Chloe as nothing more than a pawn in Evelyn's grand plan. But neither woman paid much attention to the negativity. They knew the truth, that their bond was built on mutual respect, trust, and a shared desire to make the world a little brighter. One particularly tough moment came when Evelyn's family confronted her about the foundation. Her parents, accustomed to wielding influence behind closed doors, were furious that she had gone public with such a bold initiative without consulting them. "Do you have any idea what this will do to our reputation?" her mother demanded during a tense dinner meeting. "People will think we're desperate for good press." Evelyn remained calm, her voice steady despite the weight of their disapproval. "Maybe they'll think we care about more than just money," she countered. "Isn't that a good thing?" Her father slammed his fist on the table. "Don't be naive, Evelyn. The world doesn't work that way." "Then maybe it's time someone tried changing it," Evelyn shot back, standing up. "If you can't support me, fine, but I'm not backing down." Chloe, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, stood beside her as they left the restaurant. "That took guts," she said once they were safely inside Evelyn's car. Evelyn sighed, leaning her head against the seat. "It's exhausting, fighting against people who refuse to see the bigger picture. But I guess that's what leadership is, doing what's right even when it's hard." "And you're amazing at it," Chloe assured her, squeezing her shoulder. "Just remember, you're not alone. Not anymore." By the end of the year, the foundation was thriving. Hundreds of applications poured in from eager young minds eager to seize the opportunities being offered. Success stories began trickling in too. Students landing internships, entrepreneurs launching small businesses, and families finding hope where there had once been despair. Each victory fueled Evelyn and Chloe's determination to keep pushing forward, proving that compassion and collaboration could overcome even the deepest divides. Through it all, their friendship remained the heart of everything they built. Late night conversations over tea became brainstorming sessions for new initiatives. Walks through the city turned into scouting trips for potential partners and sponsors. Even moments of doubt or frustration were met with unwavering support, reminding them that they were stronger together than apart. As another year drew to a close, Chloe found herself reflecting on how drastically her life had changed since that fateful phone call. She thought about the woman she used to be, the girl who felt invisible, trapped by circumstances beyond her control. And then she looked at Evelyn, standing beside her on the balcony of the penthouse, gazing out at the glittering city below. "What are you thinking about?" Evelyn asked, breaking the silence. "How lucky I am," Chloe replied honestly, "to have stumbled into your life, to have found someone who believes in me enough to help me dream bigger than I ever thought possible." Evelyn smiled, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "The feeling's mutual. You saved me, Chloe, in more ways than one." And as they stood there, bathed in the soft glow of the city lights, it was clear that their story was far from over. Together they had proven that sometimes showing up, whether by accident or design, could lead to something extraordinary. The months rolled on and the foundation grew into something neither Chloe nor Evelyn could have fully imagined in the beginning. It wasn't just a project anymore. It had become a movement. Every success story they heard felt like a victory. For both of them, proof that their hard work was making a real difference. But as much as things were changing around them, the bond between Chloe and Evelyn remained at the core of everything they did. Their friendship had evolved into something deeper, more profound, a partnership built on trust, respect, and an unshakable belief in each other. One crisp autumn morning, Chloe stood outside her dad's old apartment, now freshly painted and renovated thanks to funds from the foundation. Her dad had been one of the first beneficiaries of their housing assistance program, which helped low-income families improve living conditions while keeping rent affordable. He greeted her with a proud smile, his worn hands dusted with paint, from helping with the final touches. "You did good, kiddo," he said, pulling her into a tight hug. "Never thought I'd see the day when we didn't have to worry about leaks or broken heaters." Chloe laughed, hugging him back. "It's not me, it's all of us working together. You know that. Maybe, he admitted with a wink. But you're the reason this whole thing started. Don't forget that. Later that afternoon, Chloe met Evelyn at the park near the penthouse. They often came here to escape the noise of the city and recharge. As they walked along the winding paths lined with golden leaves, Evelyn glanced over at Chloe with a thoughtful expression. What? Chloe asked, noticing the look. I've been thinking, Evelyn began, tucking her scarf tighter around her, neck against the chill. About family. Chloe raised an eyebrow. Okay. What about it? Evelyn hesitated, choosing her words carefully. You know how my parents reacted when I launched the foundation? They still don't approve. Probably. Never will. And honestly, I'm okay with that. But lately I've realized something. Family isn't just about blood. It's about who stands by you no matter what. Who believes in you even when you doubt yourself. Chloe slowed her pace, sensing the weight behind Evelyn's words. Where are you going with this? Evelyn stopped walking and turned to face her. I want you to be part of my family, Chloe. Not legally or anything official like that, but emotionally. You've already changed my life in ways I can't put into words. You've shown me what it means to truly connect with someone, to care about them without expecting anything in return. That's what family is supposed to feel like. Chloe blinked, stunned. For a moment, she didn't know how to respond. Then, slowly, she smiled. You've done the same for me, she said softly. You gave me a chance when no one else would. You believed in me before I even believed in myself. If anyone's earned the title of family, it's you. They hugged there in the middle of the park, surrounded by falling leaves and the distant laughter of children playing. It was a quiet moment, but it carried the weight of everything they'd been through together, and everything they hoped to build in the future. As winter approached, the foundation hosted its first annual gala, an event designed to celebrate milestones and raise additional funds for upcoming projects. The venue was stunning, with twinkling lights strung across high ceilings and tables adorned with elegant centerpieces. Guests mingled under the glow of chandeliers, sipping champagne and marveling at displays showcasing the foundation's achievements. For Chloe, the night was surreal. She wore a simple yet stylish dress Evelyn had picked out for her, feeling both nervous and excited as she navigated the crowd. People approached her throughout the evening, eager to hear her perspective on the foundation's impact. Reporters asked questions about her journey, and community leaders praised her contributions. At one point, she found herself standing beside Evelyn during a speech, listening as Evelyn addressed the audience. When I first met Chloe, Evelyn said, her voice steady and heartfelt, I didn't realize how much she would teach me. She reminded me that kindness matters more than status, that resilience is stronger than privilege, and that showing up, even when it's inconvenient, is one of the bravest things we can do. Tonight, we celebrate not just what we've accomplished, but the connections that made it possible. The room erupted in applause, and Chloe felt tears prick her eyes. She caught Evelyn's gaze and mouthed a silent, "Thank you." Evelyn smiled back, mouthing, "You're welcome," before stepping down from the stage. Afterward, as they stood together watching fireworks light up the sky, Chloe leaned her head on Evelyn's shoulder. Do you remember that first night, when you let me into your penthouse because you thought I might be housekeeping? Evelyn chuckled. How could I forget? I probably sounded insane. Well, maybe, Chloe teased. But I think fate had a hand in it. That wrong call brought us together for a reason. Evelyn nodded, her expression softening. And look where we are now, building a better future, for ourselves and for others. Over time, their lives settled into a rhythm that balanced ambition with contentment. Chloe continued to grow, professionally, taking on leadership roles within the foundation while pursuing further education. Evelyn, meanwhile, embraced her role as a changemaker, using her platform to advocate for policies that supported marginalized communities. Together, they inspired countless others to follow their lead, proving that collaboration could bridge even the widest gaps. Their relationship remained the cornerstone of everything they achieved. They celebrated victories together, navigated challenges side by side, and always found time to simply enjoy each other's company, whether it was sharing meals, exploring new parts of the city, or sitting quietly on the balcony watching the sunset. Years later, when Chloe looked back on her life, she realized that single phone call at 2 a.m. had set off a chain reaction neither she nor Evelyn could have predicted. What started as a mistake became a turning point, a chance encounter that transformed two strangers into lifelong friends and allies. Along the way, they redefined what it meant to belong, proving that family wasn't defined by bloodlines but by the bonds we choose to create. And as they stood together one final time on the balcony of the penthouse, gazing out at the glittering skyline, Chloe knew one thing for certain. No matter what the future held, she and Evelyn would face it together. Because sometimes showing up is all it takes to change a life, and discovering who you are meant to be starts with finding the right person to stand beside you.